You know, I really thought the hate for Joe Judge exited the building and exited everybody's minds by the end of the 2020 season. You of course got all the media going off about Joe Judge and how he coaches. He coaches too hard in this soft NFL and sports era. You would think we brushed that all aside, as he proved to be a leader of men. And although the record doesn't say so, this team is definitely trending in the right direction under Joe Judge, and he is a huge part of that. Apparently, it hasn't ended yet, and the Joe Judge slander and blasphemy is still alive and well. What is going on, guys? What is going on, 27 Squad? Welcome back into another video, and today we are going to be going over NBC Sports. I was tagged on this by Twitter. I was tagged on Twitter with this story attached to it, and it's absolutely ridiculous. The blasphemy that I hear or I see coming out of this person's keyboard. Apparently, there's an NFL writer by the name of Pat Dougherty. I don't know how to say his last name, but I guess he's part of Roto World because his Twitter handle is Roto Pat. I guess he's part of Roto World. I don't know. I'm not familiar too much with Roto World. But that being said, he's a writer, and this particular writer didn't just make an article trashing Joe Judge. It was much more subtle than that. Instead, he made a list ranking all NFL coaches in the NFL. And if you look all the way down the list, now I don't expect Joe Judge to be a top 10 head coach all of a sudden. That's definitely not where I have him ranked, and I wouldn't even be mad if he was in, close to the 20 range, because he is still yet to prove what he can do in the NFL. But out of 25 coaches ranked, because in this particular listing, the coaches that were newly hired and into their new roles as head coach with their new teams are not listed on here. So it's 1 out of 25. Out of 25 head coaches, Joe Judge ranks 23. That's right, Joe Judge ranks 23rd out of 25 in all experienced head coaches in the NFL after a 6-10 record. And we have to see where Matt Rule ranks. Matt Rule ranks all the way at 19th over Mike McCarthy and over John Gruden, over Cliff Kingsbury. Nobody really likes Cliff Kingsbury anyway. But how does Matt Rule rank all the way? We had a better record than them. So if you want to talk about record, we had a better record than the Carolina Panthers. If you talk about being a leader of men and leading this team and trending in the right direction, the Giants have so much more of a better future than the Carolina Panthers. Let's look at his reasoning as to why Joe Judge is ranked this low, and you will be amazed at what he's going to say. By the way, the coaches ranked 24 and 25th are Vic Fangio with the Broncos and Zach Taylor with the Cincinnati Bengals. Alright, so this is what Pat Dougherty, I don't know how to say his name, had to say about Joe Judge and his ranking. So it says, Joe Judge began his Giants career with bits, no names on jerseys, etc. You know how it's funny, you would think that when you use etc, you would list much more examples than just one. So he began his career with bits. I guess bits mean charades or something like that, or little ticky-tack stuff, right? He named one thing, no names on jerseys. Okay, what else? He just put etc there to try to hide from the fact that he can't list anymore. So, no names on jerseys, etc. It made him an easy punchline for a slumping organizations. How does his hard coaching make him an easy punchline? It will be different if he was a soft head coach and had a press conference that of Nick Sirianni.
We're gonna have systems.
Or Adam Gase when he was introduced with the New York Jets. Then he would be a meme, right? A meme or a punchline to an organization. But I digress. Let's keep going here. He's already off. The BS meter is already through the roof right now. So things started off equally poorly during the regular season, where Judge's squad produced an 0-5 and 1-7 records. he's putting these records separately to try to over-exaggerate the situation. The team started 1-7. That's pretty much all you need to say. Obviously, they're going to have multiple games lost and start off with multiple games lost if they're at 1-7, right? They only won 1 game out of 8, right? So, obviously. So, let's move on from there. He's trying to over-exaggerate the situation by putting 2 records there with bad records and try to say, listen, it's all psychology here, okay? Anyway, the second half was much better, with the G-Men closing 5-3 and coming within a Nate Sudfeld cameo of winning their pathetic division. Now, he mentions Nate Sudfeld here, and this talk about Philadelphia tanking their football game in Week 17 against the Washington football team. He mentions Nate Sudfeld as if that was the only gripe about the Philadelphia Eagles tanking that game, as if Nate Sudfeld was just the prime reason that the Philadelphia Eagles lost, and the prime reason for their tanking, or the prime cause for their tanking. Are you retarded? There was multiple players sat there. It wasn't just all starters and Nate Sudfeld played, okay? They were intentionally tanking that game. Not just Nate Sudfeld was there tanking that game. You guys just speak so wrong on Nate Sudfeld's name. It makes how is this guy feeling right now? It's not Nate Sudfeld's fault. Anyway, with offense exploding league wide, the Giants were a rare bulwark for the other side of the ball, surrendering 94 fewer points than the year prior. So he gives a little nod to the defense, but watch what he tries to say about Joe Judge's offense, right? But the problem is Judge's offense, which showed 0 second-year improvement under erratic starter Daniel Jones. Now, this is a common misconception. A lot of people look at Daniel Jones' statistical line and think that he had a terrible year, if not he regressed from last season. To be honest, he probably did regress at the beginning of the season, but if you notice towards the ending of the season, first of all, Daniel Jones, I know a lot of people hate that we stress to say it all the time, but Daniel Jones was the most accurate deep ball passer in the NFL. That's just a fact. Other than that, Daniel Jones clearly cleaned up his play when it comes to turning over the football, the fumbles, the interceptions. Clearly cleaned that up towards the end of the season, even with 2 bad legs. So, and on top of that, really established himself as a quarterback that can run. Skipping ahead a bit, it says, Judge can sometimes feel like a football Guy Parody. He took the Sudfeld thing just a little too personally, though he has successfully toed the line of instilling a hard-nosed attitude while keeping his players' respect. So I don't know what you're trying to say here. I mean, he says the Sudfeld thing. It's not the Sudfeld thing. It's the Philadelphia Eagles thing. By the way, in which he did not raise his voice, did not get overly emotional, and did not make an excuse as to why the Giants were not in the playoffs. See, a lot of people use this clip. I'll play just a bit of it. A lot of people use this clip and just think this is what Joe Judge said.
To look at a group of grown men who I ask to give me effort on a day in, day out basis and to empty the tank, and then I can look them in the eye and assure them that I'm always going to do everything I can to put them at a competitive advantage and play them in a position of strength. To me, you don't ever want to disrespect those players and their effort and disrespect the game.
But you tend to miss and tend to just conveniently look past what he said here prior to his comments you just heard.
Look, there's been a lot made of that game, internal or, from the outside. Let me just be very clear on this. We had 16 opportunities this year. That's it. It's our responsibility to take care of our opportunities and to perform better and to execute the situations when they're on our plate. We don't ever want to leave our fate in the hands of anybody else. So we're not going to make excuses in an organization, not now, not ever. We had our opportunities. We need to learn from the lessons we have from this year and carry them forward. That's the experience you truly gain. But that's really the most important thing right there. I mean, our opportunities.
So you saw Joe Judge completely take responsibility before he mentioned the Eagles. He didn't even mention the Eagles. Before he kind of talked about the Eagles without mentioning them indirectly. Before he did that, he made sure that people understood that he is not blaming this team that had 0 integrity. He is not blaming this team for their season being over and them not making the playoffs. He said we had 16 opportunities to make it happen, and we don't want to be in a position where we put our fate in another team's hands. So, first of all, I mean, of course he would take that personally. It's in division, it's against a rival, and of course you're going to be a little emotional at the fact that you don't make the playoffs because of it. And even though he said that, he's not having the Eagles take any responsibility for it, but I don't know what you're trying to say here. And he's saying, though he has successfully toed the line and instilling a hard-nosed attitude while keeping his players' respect. Absolutely. He's one of the hardest coaches. He's like Tom Thibodeau for the NBA. Conveniently with the New York Knicks right now. Some players just don't want to play with him. Tom Coughlin a couple years ago. Some players just don't want to play for hard coaches, for hard-nosed attitude coaches. And that's what the city of New York needs, especially the New York Giants, and it's keeping the players' respect. So I don't know how you're hating on the guy for it. And then he says there's a chance 2020 was Judge's ceiling. The fact it wasn't the floor campaign so many were expecting was a surprise, encouraging development. I don't know who on earth you talked to that thought that Joe Judge being hired in 2020 was supposed to be the floor campaign, was supposed to be, just a down in the dumps year. I don't know what you're talking about there. And on top of that, I don't really know how you think this may be the ceiling for Joe Judge. If you look at all the obstacles he had to endure this season, granted, every single team had to endure, but he is a new head coach on a new team with no camaraderie with any of these guys besides people he's formerly worked with, but has no chemistry with these players at all. He's coming into a new system, a whole new environment, right? He's worked at Alabama, worked with the New England Patriots, coming to a whole new team, had to hire a whole new staff. They drafted players, had no OTAs, did not have a preseason, had very limited training camp, couldn't do anything as far as contact. You really couldn't evaluate these players at all. You had to use the first 4 games of your regular season to really establish a certain depth chart of where these players are at. They literally used the 4 games of the season of 2020 to evaluate their players and kind of set a depth chart, and then that's when the Giants started to get clicking, and that's when the Giants started to win some more games. So if you look at all that he had to endure, all that he had to overcome, he did a phenomenal job. He finished with a better record than last year with Pat Shurmur, with everything we had to overcome, and with Daniel Jones being hurt and Colt McCoy as our starting quarterback. All right, Joe Judge did a phenomenal job in his first year as head coach with everything, just thinking about everything included, with whole COVID and how everything turned out. Even finished with a better record than Matt Rule, and still you rate Matt Rule ahead. Why? Do the Carolina Panthers look honestly better than the New York Giants? Are they trending higher than the New York Giants right now? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So with that being said, I had to go ahead and refute this guy. I don't really care where he rates and his explanation on all these other coaches. I don't really care. But you guys mentioned me this on Twitter, and I had to, just reading the article, I gotta know which team he's a fan of, because then I would kind of figure out the true motive of this hit piece. All right, so that being said, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed, subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Woo!